Blocker, could you feel any more confident right now about the Blues' chances of wrapping up the series, or are you wary of a Queensland fight back in Game 2?
Look, I'm very confident for the reason that how is Queensland going to stop our back five? I mean, they're just going to go out and play exactly the way that they did. Queensland will be a lot better too. They'll be ready. Papali coming back into the side will be good for their middles, but how are they going to stop those guys? You know, Latrell, Trbojevic, those sort of guys. Toto, 26 carries in the first game. And it's all right to say, look, we're going to be better and all that sort of stuff, but they have blokes in the centres that aren't centres. How do you handle the best centres in the world when the only way that you can is get up and cheat, get up offside and try and put pressure on them and try and defend them that way? But, you get worn out. Eventually, those guys make the right options. They're that good. Spud,
your favourite player, one of your favourite players, Jake Trbojevic, is not going to be able to line up in Game 2. So who do you think the logical choice should be for Brad Fittler to bring into the lineup?
As a player, you don't want to miss any games, but it's just sad news about Jake. At training, wish they'd go back to the tackling bags. Don't go tackling each other, get back to the tackling bags, but he's going to be sorely missed. But I just think we're hearing down the line maybe Finucane. I'm a big fan of him. What he does for the Melbourne Storm, he's gritty, puts his body on the line. I just think he's purpose-built for State of Origin. Hopefully he might get the start.
It certainly tells you something when Craig Bellamy has had so many premiership wins and coached all those great players at Melbourne. When he talks about Finucane, he says, mate, he's the first bloke I pick on my football side.
Yeah. Well, we know that he is within the squad. He has been spotted around Homebush hoops. What are the other big players that we're hearing about are obviously Angus Crichton as well. Which way do you think Freddie's going to lean?
I think they'll go Junior Paulo into the front row, which is where Jake started in State of Origin 1, Lara, and then we'll see Angus Crichton win the final position on the bench. Dale's in the squad, but at this stage, I think that he will be with Api Coruscant, Campbell Graham, and Dale is the 20th additional reserves.
I'll tell you, probably the worst thing I reckon we could do is change the side. Now, Murray did a great job on Fafita in Game 1. I wouldn't shift him. Isaiah Yeo, I thought he was, albeit and everything, that on the edges where they scored all the tries and everything, I thought Isaiah Yeo was brilliant in the middle of the park for New South Wales at lock in the first game.
I call him the Victor Lawnmower. He just goes all day. Give him one pause, he's out there on the park, but he just goes all day, Hoops. What he does for the Panther side certainly brought the New South Wales side, and he was outstanding. And don't take him off; leave him out there for the full game.
Yeah, no question. His ball play's unsung as a link man between Cleary and also Luai on the other side. But you make a great point, Block, and it hasn't attracted a lot of headlines in the aftermath of State of Origin 1. The job that Cameron Murray did on an edge on David, he completely nullified David Fafita, who on his day is one of the most dangerous attacking players in the competition.
And how did he do it? What he did, the big thing when you play against a bloke like Fafita who's so good on the edge, he scored another try today, by the way, I think it was his 10th for the season, is take his time off him. Now, Murray is that fit and that agile and that mobile that he could put up and put pressure on him for 80 minutes, and he did exactly that. I mean, he would have been shying him away at the end of the game saying, mate, please, enough's enough. But, it just goes to show what a great player Murray is too, that he's a bit unsung because he doesn't say much. He's a very quiet, unassuming type of bloke. But I reckon he's a coach's dream that you give him a job and he'll go out there and do whatever you tell him to do.
Yeah, it looked like he said to his boys, mate, I've got Fafita, you go and look after the rest. I think he had 19 carries, 16 times he got tackled by Murray.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other big thing too, on a big man like that, to take his time off him, the cleanness of the legs tackle from Murray to put the pressure on him. I don't reckon there was many other blokes in the NRL that could do that job.
Well, you guys have got a big wrap on, obviously, the Blues forward pack. We're going to have a look at the expected lineup for the Blues. It hasn't come and been confirmed just yet by Brad Fittler, but if we talk about the theme of the Panthers brigade, they came back this weekend in round 15 and that man in the number 7 jersey, Nathan Cleary, was absolutely dominant against the Roosters on the weekend, and they bring that confidence, we would like to think, up to Suncorp next weekend, Blocker.
Yeah, look, the most amazing thing for me is watching Nathan Cleary. I don't think I've ever seen a halfback improve his game as quickly as he has over the last couple of years. Now, a couple of years ago, he gets picked in State of Origin. There were a few people that raised their eyebrows. But this guy has gone 100... He is almost, along with Tommy Turbo, the best player in the NRL at the moment. Yeah. Mate, he's playing that good and that dominant.
It's frightening to think, Block, that he's only 23 years of age, but the maturity that we've seen in him over the course of the last 18 months to 2 seasons, he took enormous strides out of guiding Penrith into that grand final last year. dominating in an Origin series is something that he's yet to do. I think that he'll tick that box throughout the course of the next couple of games, and then he's just got to take Penrith deep into the finals again, and there's a shot at another title. So, look, he really is seeing the game, and I listened to his dad after that great win over the Roosters on Friday night, and he said it just looks as though he's seeing the game in slow motion, and that is how he's playing at the moment. They talk about the great champions having time, your Wally Lewis, your Joey Johns. It's scary that he's only 23 and that he's already got that much time with the ball.
You'd love to see a comparison with those great players that had long careers. And I know we're looking and trying to forecast what's going to happen, but, you know, we'll be able to judge him at the end of his career. He's going to be as good as all those guys.
I think he has improved since last year, but he's playing in the dinner jacket behind that forward pack of the Panthers. They're just steamrolling through the middle, and that's what New South Wales have to do. You talk about our back five. That back line is fantastic, but if we don't do our work through the middle, don't worry about game one. Game two, got to take them on the middle, and then we'll allow the outside backs to cause some havoc.
Yeah, why would you change? If you had a look at the first set that New South Wales had in that game, it was all outside backs that run the football.
Tommy Turbo had two carries. Teddy had 2 carries.
It'd be dirty for a front row. Give me the ball.
It was different. It was unorthodox.
They might be expecting it though this time around, so maybe Freddie will have something up his sleeve.
But the big thing is you've got to stop it.
Yeah, you've got to stop it.
How do you stop it?
That's true. The Blues, though, they do head into camp, as we understand it, as a fit team, and we're going to hear from Isaiah Yeo a little bit later. But chaos for the Queenslanders this afternoon. We hear that Harry Grant, and this isn't a joke, he's actually got an injury hoop, so what's the latest?
Yeah, look, it is absolutely legitimate, Lara. He's had hamstring issues leading into game one, obviously didn't play in the NRL for a couple of weeks, then got through State of Origin game one, got through Saturday evening's flogging of West Tigers that we'll get to later on, but he did pull up a little bit ginger, and it is a hamstring problem. It's obviously related to the previous issue that he has had, and the word around is that highly unlikely Harry will be available for selection. So I think you can put the pen through him, which is a huge blow for Queensland. That brings the likes of Ben Hunt and even Andrew McCulloch possibly as a number 14 into the equation.
There's the big question that's going to be asked of the selectors and also of the Queensland coach. Do you bring McCulloch in? Now, around the middle, they were a little bit vulnerable around the middle in the first game. Now, McCulloch is renowned for doing 50 tackles.
Tackles everything.
Do you put Hunt on the bench? You still have both of them in the side, and you've got Hunt on the bench who can come on and play in multiple positions. Whereas if you need a defender in the middle, and they need to stop New South Wales momentum through the middle, McCulloch might be the bloke that you'd put in.
They'd be the very conversations that they're having now, Blocker. And the other one that they've got to figure out is this young bloke, Reece Walsh. Yeah. He's been that impressive in the very small sample size that we've seen in the 7 games that he's featured in the NRL. They're talking, I know they got beaten by 50-0 in game one, but he is genuinely in the conversations amongst the Queensland selection group at the moment.
Hoops, the conversation for Queensland, look, New South Wales are going to score 20 or 30 points. Now, Queensland need to score points. I would put this, if it was me, I reckon he's ready. I've seen him attack the ball. I've seen him make long-range breaks. He's class. The only way we're going to find out if he's any good in Origin, and let's think about this too, Spud, you don't have to worry about getting bashed in Origin anymore. There were gone are the days where you used to kick downfield and try and bash the back three for the first 3 tackles. Anything goes. It was Queensby rules. That doesn't happen in the game now, and that would protect this kid. And I reckon they should put him in because they need to score points. Yeah,
I love how Brownie's sort of very protective of his players. He loves his players and he thinks maybe he should wait off. But me personally, I just think if you're good enough, you're old enough. He showed me in every game he plays. He's only, 6 or 7 games. He's a superstar.
Yeah, he's good.
And the thing about these young blokes, they have no fear. He dropped the ball last night. Didn't worry about it. Brushed off the shoulder and then created havoc.
What about some of those bombs Jake Clifford was sending up for him? It was blowing a gale.
It was incredible.
And they're floating around and fizzing upside down. And, look, I didn't envy the position he was in. I thought in the circumstances he handled himself as best he could.
You know the other thing too, I know it was a shellacking in the first game up there in Origin 1, but if you're going to make your debut as a young bloke and you're going to be put under pressure, you want to make it at home.
Yeah.
Suncorp Stadium, it's tailor-made.
He doesn't strike you as the kind of player either that, as you have said, these young players, they've got that confidence. And he's not slight. He looks like he could handle the physicality of Origin. The last question I have about Queensland, you mentioned it, how they're going to stop that back 5 from New South Wales. Do they make a change and move Kurt Capewell? Or do they stick to their 5 at the back?
There's a quiet tip around this afternoon, Lara, that they were looking at Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow from North Queensland. Now, he had a head knock in that game against the Sharks on Friday night, so they've gone a bit jittery.
You couldn't play him in the centres.
Well, they were looking at it.
Really?
Now, they're
play him on the wing.
They're looking at the Parramatta young bloke, Tom Opacek, who is a defensive specialist. Now, I'm not saying it's over the line, but these are the conversations that Paul Green, Darren Lockyer, Gene Miles are having as we speak.
At the end of the day, but do we really care? It's Queensland.
No,
Viewers care.
You know the other point. You know the other point that a lot of people have missed. I don't know if you talked about it on radio today or whatever. With the six agains, the score in the first game was Queensland 9-1 with restarts, with six again restarts. Now you imagine the scoreline if it had been flipped on its head and New South Wales had 9 restarts. They would have won even more comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you? And because they were getting done in the middle of the ruck, and you're always on your back. You're always on the back foot making tackles. 9-1 seems over the top for me. If you're on the back foot all the time.
Yeah, I think the inclusion of Papali'i and Walsh, mate, he's a major part of the jigsaw puzzle. He was out after 9 minutes, didn't come back on. What he does for the Melbourne Storm is go forward, but he puts his body on the line. They're a big in, but they need to fire up, dead set through the middle, take our players on.
Don't get us wrong, they're going to be a lot better. Don't worry about that.
Has that tie got a little tinge of maroon in it, Spud? What's going on over there?
He'll burn it on set if you suggest that.
No, it's always colour matching, but no, it's red, not maroon.